The Boron Letters by Gary Halbert. Picture this. You're a father, but not just any father. You're a legend. People whisper your name in marketing circles, like you're some kind of wizard who can sell ice to Eskimos. You've made millions, blown through millions, and lived the kind of wild life that reads like fiction. But here's the twist. Right now, you've lost everything that matters most. Your freedom. You're stuck in a federal prison camp in Boron, California. It's 1984. The desert heat is absolutely brutal. Your future? Completely uncertain. And the only lifeline you have to the outside world, to the person you care about most, is a pen and some paper. Your son, Bond, yes, that's really his name, is about to turn 16. He's standing at that crucial edge between being a kid and becoming a man, and you can't be there. No driving lessons together, no late-night talks over pizza, nothing. So what do? If you're Gary Halbert, you do something extraordinary. You start writing. One letter every single day. You pour out everything you've learned from decades of wins, losses, and hard-won wisdom. Not just the business secrets that made you rich, but the real stuff. How to stay healthy, how to bounce back when life punches you in the face, how to deal with difficult people, how to build a life worth living, and maybe most importantly, how to avoid screwing everything up. These letters, later called the Boron Letters, are completely unique. They weren't written for some publisher. No editor touched them. They're raw, brutally honest, and deeply personal. This is a father throwing his son a lifeline, packed with secrets that have created fortunes and philosophies that build unshakable character. Today we're going inside that prison camp. We're reading over Bond's shoulder, discovering the profound, timeless lessons that Gary shared from behind bars. And here's what I can promise you. This book is about way more than marketing. It's a blueprint for strength, a masterclass in clear thinking, and a powerful guide to living life on your own terms. So where does a legendary marketer, a guy who knows every trick in the book about making money, start his most important lessons to his son? Does he dive into how to write killer headlines or the psychology of closing a sale? Nope. He starts somewhere completely unexpected. He starts with running up a hill. When Gary first arrived at Boron, he was out of shape, struggling. He tells Bond that just walking once around this steep eighth-of-a-mile hill at the camp was torture. But here's the thing. He didn't whine about it. He didn't make excuses. He just started moving. Every single morning, he'd drag himself out of bed early, eat a piece of fruit, usually a banana, and hit the road. He called it road work. Walking, jogging, running, 1 hour, every day except Sunday. Within 3 weeks, he was crushing that same brutal hill nonstop. And the pride in his writing is almost tangible. He felt incredible. This, he explains to Bond, is the first and most important secret to a good life. Taking care of your body. He believed that starting your day with an hour of road work creates something magical. It clears your head, settles your nerves, and gives you this steady glow of energy that carries you through the entire day. The benefits, he insists, are absolutely enormous. But then he reveals something fascinating. This habit isn't just about willpower or discipline, it's about addiction, a positive addiction. He explains that after about 40 minutes of sustained exercise, your brain releases these powerful chemicals called beta endorphins. He tells Bond these chemicals are hundreds of times stronger than morphine. They give you a natural high that makes you feel alive and energized, and the kicker is, this high is actually good for you. This is the foundation of everything. Before you can conquer business, you have to conquer yourself. Your health isn't some nice-to-have bonus, it's the engine that powers everything else. Without physical energy and mental clarity, even the best strategies in the world are completely useless. He laid out a simple, non-negotiable routine for Bond. Get up early, eat a piece of fruit, move for an hour, walk, jog, run, doesn't matter. Just get out the door and start moving. He knew this single habit would build a foundation of discipline and resilience that would carry Bond through everything life threw at him. From this foundation of physical strength, Gary smoothly transitions to the next essential layer, mental toughness. He tells Bond a story about the camp administrators, calling them total jerks. But here's his reaction. Instead of being down and depressed, I just got tougher. This get tough attitude runs through the entire book like a thread. Life, especially in a place like prison, is full of people and situations that will try to break you down. Gary's advice isn't to hide or shrink away. It's to harden up, to develop mental armor that protects you. He illustrates this with a powerful observation. Defensive behavior invites aggressive action. A weak or sloppy posture broadcasts to the world that you don't respect yourself. And predators, whether they're in a prison yard or a corporate boardroom, are drawn to weakness, like sharks to blood. They're always looking for the easy target. So how do you avoid becoming that target? You don't have to act tough. You have to be tough. And it starts with your body. Gary gets very specific here. He's not talking about becoming some huge, bulky bodybuilder. Instead, he tells Bond to aim for a lean, hard body with strong, muscular arms. Why the arms specifically? 3 reasons. First, it's genuinely useful to be strong. Second, he believed women found it attractive and men respected it. And third, from a prison survival standpoint, just having visibly strong arms could keep you out of trouble without you ever having to say a word. The core message here is profound self-reliance. He hammers it home with a line you can feel him underlining in his cell. Rely on your own strength instead of somebody else's compassion. You can't fake this stuff. You can't just talk a good game. Your physical presence, the way you carry yourself, sends a constant signal to the world. It tells people whether you're someone to respect or someone to test. By building your body, you're building a non-verbal shield that communicates strength and self-respect without you saying a single word. This mental toughness extends to everything you do, especially when you're working toward a goal. Gary gives Bond advice that's so simple, it's easy to miss how profound it is. When he recommends that Bond start fasting 1 day a week, he adds this critical instruction: do not tell other people what you are doing. Why? Because most people are naysayers. They don't understand what you're trying to do, and they'll fill your head with ignorant doubts and fears. Gary's favorite saying was, "Nothing is impossible for a man who refuses to listen to reason." This doesn't mean you should be reckless, but it means you have to protect your ambitions from the casual negativity that surrounds us all. When you have a big idea, whether it's starting a business or transforming your health, people will line up to tell you why it can't be done. They'll tell you it's too hard, too risky, that 90% of businesses fail. And they don't do this because they're evil. They do it to make themselves feel better about their own inaction. Gary's advice is beautifully simple. Just keep it to yourself. Don't argue. Don't try to convince them. Quietly go about your work. Prove them wrong with your results, not your words. This quiet self-reliance, this ability to tune out the noise and focus on your path, is like having a superpower. And it's a muscle you build day by day, starting with that morning run. Once you've built this foundation of physical and mental strength, you're finally ready to learn the secret to making money. And for Gary Halbert, it all starts with one simple, revolutionary idea. He asks his students a question: if you and I both owned a hamburger stand and we were in a contest to see who could sell the most, what advantages would you want? People always give the same answers: better meat, sesame seed buns, the best location, the lowest prices. Gary listens patiently, then says, "Okay, I'll give you every single advantage you asked for. I only want one advantage, and I will absolutely destroy all of you." "What advantage is that?" they ask. His answer is the key to his entire philosophy: a starving crowd. Think about that for a second. You can have the most perfectly cooked gourmet hamburger in the world, but if you're trying to sell it to people who just finished an all-you-can-eat buffet, you're going to fail miserably. But if you have a tray of mediocre, slightly burnt burgers, and you're standing in front of a crowd that hasn't eaten in 3 days, you'll sell every single one in seconds. This is the first and most important rule of business. You must become a student of markets, not a student of products. So many aspiring entrepreneurs make the same fatal mistake. They fall in love with a product or an idea first, and then they go looking for people to sell it to. This, Gary says, is completely backwards. Your job isn't to create a product and then try to manufacture demand for it. Your job is to find a group of people, a market, that's already desperately hungry for a solution to a problem they have. Once you find that starving crowd, you can always find or create a product to satisfy their hunger. So how do you find these starving crowds? Simple. You watch what people actually buy, not what they say they buy. Gary shares a brilliant story about a beer company that did a survey. They asked people which beer they preferred, their regular beer or their premium beer. Overwhelmingly, people said they preferred the premium beer, but the company was confused because their sales figures showed almost everyone was buying the regular beer. What was happening? People were giving the right answer. They were saying what they thought they should like, trying to appear sophisticated. But their wallets were telling the real story. He gives another example, the National Enquirer. Almost nobody admits to reading it. People look down on it, call it trash. Yet it was the largest selling newspaper in the world. Who was buying it? Not the people in your survey, but millions who quietly picked it up at the grocery store checkout. Truth, Gary insists, isn't found in what people say. It's found in their actions, especially their purchasing actions. Your job as a marketer is to become a student of reality, to see the world as it actually is, not as you wish it were. He gave Bond a practical tool for this, a massive book called the SRDS Direct Mail List book. This was basically a catalog of mailing lists you could rent. It was a treasure map of human desire. By reading the descriptions of these lists, you could see exactly what groups of people were actually spending money on. He finds a list of people who've bought diamonds and rubies, with an average purchase of $5,000. He does the math out loud for Bond. Nearly 4,000 people. That's $20 million in sales. He gets genuinely excited. This isn't theory. This is proof. This is a starving crowd. They've already demonstrated their hunger for high-end jewelry. What else might they buy? Probably more of the same kind of thing. The path becomes crystal clear. You don't have to guess what people want. They're telling you every single day with their credit cards. Your task is simply to pay attention. Look for the ads that run over and over. Check out the mailing lists with huge numbers of recent, frequent, high-dollar buyers. Find the hot buttons that are already being pushed, and then push them better. The most valuable skill in business isn't creativity in a vacuum. It's the skill of observation. Finding that starving crowd, and then simply giving them what they're already desperate to buy. Once you've found your starving crowd, your next challenge is getting your message in front of them in a way they'll actually pay attention to. This is where Gary reveals one of his most famous concepts, the A pile versus the B pile. Every day, he explains, when you sort through your mail, you unconsciously divide it into two piles. The A pile is for mail that looks personal, letters from friends, family, business contacts, birthday cards, anything that looks like a real person sent it specifically to you. You always open everything in the A pile. You're curious. It's for you. The B pile is everything else, the junk mail. Envelopes with bulk rate postage, teaser copy screaming exciting news inside, and generic address labels. You know immediately it's a sales pitch. What happens to the B pile? Maybe you set it aside for later. Maybe you glance at it if you're bored. Or maybe, and this happens most often, it goes straight into the trash, unopened. The first and most critical objective of any direct mail promotion, Gary teaches, is to get your envelope into the A pile. If your envelope gets thrown away, you've lost before you even had a chance to make your pitch. It doesn't matter how brilliant your sales letter is if nobody ever reads it. And how do you get into the A pile? It's surprisingly simple. You make your envelope look personal. Instead of a corporate logo in the corner, just a return address. Instead of bulk rate postage, a real first-class stamp, preferably a colorful commemorative one. Instead of a printed label, a typed or even handwritten address. This creates intrigue. The person receiving it doesn't know what it is. It could be from anyone. They open it out of pure curiosity, just to find out what's inside. And just like that, you've overcome the biggest hurdle in marketing. You've earned a moment of attention. But getting the envelope opened is only the first step. Now you have to grab their focused attention and pull them into your message. For this, Gary recommends using a grabber, something physical attached to the letter. He gives a brilliant example. Imagine you're selling a report on investing in Hawaiian real estate. At the top of your letter, you attach a small plastic baggie filled with sand. Think about the impact. The reader opens the letter and sees this little bag of dirt. Their mind floods with questions. What is this? Why did they send me sand? This isn't just attention. It's quality attention. They're now compelled to read on to solve the mystery. And this is where the art of copywriting comes in. You must immediately tie your grabber to your message in a way that makes sense. The letter might start, "Dear Mr. Jones, I've attached a small baggie to this letter for 2 reasons. First, what I have to say to you is very serious, and I needed a way to be sure I got your attention. And secondly, what's inside that baggie could be your passport to financial independence, because it's a tiny amount of the most valuable thing on earth, real estate. In fact, this sand was taken directly from a beach on Maui that's one of the last available for private investment." Suddenly, it all clicks. The grabber wasn't a cheap trick. It was a relevant, powerful, memorable introduction to the pitch. You've grabbed their attention, created interest, and now you're ready to build desire. This process follows a simple 4-letter formula that's been the backbone of great advertising for over a century, AIDA. Attention, interest, desire, action. First, you grab their attention with an A-pile envelope and a powerful grabber. Second, you build their interest with fascinating facts and details. You tell them about the investment potential, the beauty of the location, stories of others who've succeeded. Third, you create desire. This is the most crucial part. You don't sell the product. You sell the result of the product. You paint a vivid picture of the benefits. You don't just sell a real estate report. You sell financial freedom. You sell the feeling of warm sand between your toes, the peace of mind of never worrying about bills, the status of owning a piece of paradise. You make them feel what it would be like to have what you're offering. And finally, you call them to action. You must be crystal clear and specific. Tell them exactly what to do. Fill out the enclosed order form. Make your check for $29.95 payable to. Use the stamped, self-addressed envelope I've provided. And do it right now, today, because this opportunity is limited. You lead them by the hand and make it as easy as possible to say yes. This combination of getting into the A pile, using a relevant grabber, and following the AIDA formula is a recipe for persuasion that works just as well today in an email as it did in a letter in 1984, because it's not based on technology, it's based on human psychology. As the letters progress, you start to see the immense pressure Gary's under. He's not just a teacher. He's a man fighting to maintain his sanity and spirit in a soul-crushing environment. He shares his struggles with Bond openly, the loneliness, the frustration, the confrontations with other inmates. In one letter, he describes an incident where a roommate screams at him for playing his radio too loud. Gary's first instinct is a mix of apology and aggression. He wants to explain, but he also wants to stand his ground. The man had threatened him, and his ego felt the sting. But he does nothing. He stays silent. Later, he reflects on this decision. Getting into a fight would have been stupid. It could have meant more prison time. He was scared, and he admits it. But more than that, he was strategic. He recognized the man was emotionally immature, and arguing would have been pointless. He uses this experience to teach Bond one of the most important lessons on decision-making he ever shares. It's a simple acronym: HALT. Never make a decision when you are hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. When you're in one of these states, your judgment is clouded, your ego is fragile. You're way more likely to make a terrible call. So what do? You don't react. You find a way to clear your head. For Gary, the answer was always movement and action. After the confrontation, he didn't sulk. He wrote his letter to Bond. He took a walk. He planned his schedule. The next morning, he ran 8 miles on the hill. He explains that the physical act of writing or running is a form of therapy. It gets the garbage out of your system so you can think clearly again. The lesson is profound. You don't have to solve the problem right away. You just have to get moving. He writes, "You don't have to get it right. You just have to get it moving." This philosophy of constant forward motion is the engine behind his creative process, too. He tells Bond that to become a great copywriter, you must do something almost no one else is willing to do. He instructs him to take the best, most successful ads ever written, ads that have generated millions of dollars, and copy them out word for word in his own handwriting. This isn't about plagiarism, it's about absorption. When you physically write out a great ad, you internalize its rhythm, its flow, its structure. The words become part of you. It's like a musician learning a masterpiece by playing it over and over. You begin to develop an intuitive, cellular-level understanding of what makes it work. This is the secret to mastery, discipline, and work. Gary loved that his competition was lazy, that they felt they were above this kind of grunt work. It gave him an edge. Success isn't just about brilliant ideas. It's about the relentless, unglamorous execution of proven principles. In the final letters of this collection, you feel a real sense of urgency. Gary's laying out the entire framework for a successful mail-order business, step by step. Find a hot market. Create a product for them. Write a compelling promotion. Test it on a small scale. If it works, roll it out big. It sounds simple, but it's a lifetime of wisdom condensed into a few pages. Through it all, he remains unflinchingly human. He talks about being heartsick over a woman, about the crushing heat, about his resolve to go underground and quietly strengthen himself when he feels weak. He knows that people can smell weakness, just as they can smell success. And you can't fake it, you have to be it. And you become it through daily disciplines. The road work, the studying, the writing, the constant effort to stay aware and ready to catch a break. The Boron Letters end not with some grand finale, but with a quiet, heartfelt message of love and a renewed commitment to his principles. They're a testament to the idea that even in the darkest places, a person can create light, and that the most powerful lessons are often forged in the fires of adversity. As we close the pages of the Boron Letters, it's hard not to feel like we've been given something rare and special. This isn't a polished business book. It's a raw, unfiltered look into the mind of a master, written under the most challenging circumstances, and that's exactly where its power comes from. The most profound lesson, for me, isn't even about marketing. It's about the sequence of success. In a world obsessed with hacks, shortcuts, and the secret to getting rich quick, Gary Halbert reminds us that true, lasting success starts from the inside out. It starts with your body, with your health, with the discipline to get up every morning and do the hard thing, the road work, that builds not just physical stamina but mental strength. He teaches that you can't build a business empire on a foundation of poor health and a scattered mind. Everything starts with taking care of yourself. From there, it's about building your character. The get tough attitude he talks about isn't about being a bully. It's about radical self-reliance. It's about understanding that the world doesn't owe you anything, and that your greatest asset is your own strength, not someone else's sympathy. It's about having the wisdom to protect your dreams from the endless chorus of naysayers by simply doing the work in silence. Only after these two pillars are in place, a strong body and a resilient mind, does he even begin to talk about business. And when he does, his advice cuts through all the noise. Find a starving crowd. Don't fall in love with your own ideas. Fall in love with solving a market's desperate problem. Listen to what people do with their money, not what they say with their mouths. In an age of digital marketing, social media, and complex analytics, these principles are more relevant than ever. The tools may have changed, but human nature hasn't. There are still starving crowds everywhere, and the person who can find them and communicate with them in a clear, personal, compelling way will always win. The A pile and B pile exist today in our email inboxes, and the same principles of earning attention still apply. What can you take from this today? I think it comes down to 3 simple, actionable ideas. First, start your own road work. Find a physical activity you can do for 30 to 60 minutes every morning. A walk, a run, a bike ride. Don't overthink it. Just as Gary would say, get out the door and start moving. See what it does for your clarity and discipline. Second, become a student of markets in your own life. Pay attention to what people around you are actually spending their time and money on. What problems are they complaining about? What are they passionate about? Start looking for starving crowds. You'll be amazed at the opportunities you start to notice. And third, practice the discipline of copying greatness. Find someone you admire, a writer, an artist, a business leader, and study their work. If it's a writer, copy out their best passages by hand. If it's an entrepreneur, break down their business model. Absorb the structure of their success until it becomes part of you. That was a look inside the Boron Letters by Gary Halbert. We've explored the heart of his wisdom today, but I have to be honest with you. A summary, no matter how detailed, is like looking at a photograph of a feast. You can see what's on the table, but you can't taste the food. The real magic of this book is in its raw, unfiltered voice. The feeling that you're right there with Gary, receiving this life-changing advice directly from him. If anything we've discussed has sparked something in you, I strongly encourage you to get a copy. Reading these letters isn't just an intellectual exercise. It's an experience that can fundamentally change how you approach your health, your work, and your life. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable, please show some support by hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep learning and growing together.